Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, January 17th, 2020.
Commissioner Garcia, James, and Caloza are present. President James, you do have a quorum. May we start with bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Hector Manuelos, Bureau of Streets LA.
Good morning, Brian McCormick, LA Sanitation and Environment.
Good morning, Eddie Chavez, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Patrick Schmidt, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Seffi Wiles, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did receive a couple of speaker cards for under general public comment. We have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comments section. We also received speaker cards on items number 1, 2, 7, and 11.
Okay, thank you. Under agenda item number 9, stop payment notice, Robertsons, they've transmitted a stop payment notice in the amount of $1,297.43 for furnishing ready-mix concrete, rock, and or sand materials to Westpac Concrete Incorporated, the apparent subcontractor, in connection with the Northfield Street Storm Drain Emergency Storm Drain Repair Project. The primary contractor is Clark Contracting Corporation. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 9 forthwith by Commissioner Garcia? Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 8, specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids in Council District number 6 for the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant Advanced Water Purification Facilities Primary Equalization Basin Capital Improvement Project, the Emergency Backup Power, Additional Valley Outfall Sewer and East Valley Interceptor Sewer Gates Replacement Project. The estimate is $64,852,000 and the bid receipt date is March 11, 2020. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 8 forthwith to advertise for these bids by Commissioner Caloza? Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. A housekeeping item, colleagues, I've requested that we continue agenda item number 11. We had given Cooper and Brain until January 31. Let's go ahead and have this match up with the oral report match up with the subject of the matter that we're going to get this update on. So that will continue number 11 to January 31. Let's go ahead and take general public comment. Dr. Williams, you have a card in on general public comment.
Good morning. Happy Martin Luther King Day. I remember him. Long time ago, we had a issue with Thatcher Yard. Hey, that used to be part of Public Works. We're going to be doing strict monitoring of the proposed new construction, and it seems to be a real mess. So I don't know if the affordable housing that's proposed for it will ever get built. That's one thing. Another one. Have you ever heard of T1? It's part of the 710 project now. T1 is the connector road which would go from Valley and the existing stub of the 710 to Alhambra Avenue. But it's not for LA, although all of it is in LA. All of it. And we're quite concerned because Alhambra wants to convert the stub of the 710 to a park. But you can't have a park and a connector road. So we're quite concerned regarding the connector road T1, which is quoted as being Mission Road to Valley Connector Road, when in point of fact, it's Alhambra Avenue to Valley. So we're quite concerned about how LA streets will be incorporating that into our resources. You better change the clock.
Something's wrong with your clock, Dr. Campos.
There's nothing wrong with the clock. I'm actually taking time.
Another one. For street lighting, we have an issue that several people from the El Sereno-Herman area have complained about the Avenue 60 bridge lighting. And they have gotten no response from city services or from the Department of Public Works. So we're quite concerned about that because without it, it's dangerous. And it might be
2 minutes.
difference between
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
negligence and gross negligence.
Hector, you got in a
Next one.
card for general public comment. Mr. Sachs, your card was in earlier, but you're way at the back of the room still. So go ahead, Mr. Hector.
Hello. I just wanted to speak about some issues. There's a lot of the sidewalk repair packages that are coming through Public Works, but unfortunately we're not really getting much love in our council district 12. We'd like to see more in Porter Ranch specifically. You know that I'm from Porter Ranch and I'm on the council, but I'm speaking as an individual. So we'd like to find a way to address the issues that we have tremendous, we have very large trees, Canary Island pines, sycamores, that are uplifting the sidewalks, and we have really gotten zero sidewalks repaired in our, and I know there's an EIR out there and there's some things going on, but we need some help. So, you know, like I told you last time when we were here, our council has allocated funds to work on the trees, deal with issues surrounding the trees, but we're dealing with basically stumps, lots of broken sidewalks, the regular stuff that everybody's dealing with, I guess. But that's my only comment. And then as far as any like off-site planting or possible planting, we have over 200 tree wells that are empty just in Porter Ranch because we have tremendous winds, so they block, trees fall down, and then we're left with stumps. So we've allocated a lot of our budget in the community, but we want to try and get some of those things addressed. So we're hopeful that we can find a way to get more services from Board of Public Works in our community in Porter Ranch. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're precluded from responding directly during general public comment, but we have a sidewalk item that you put a card in on already, and we'll have a bit of this discussion. Mr. Sachs, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. And been a while, a couple of days. If you're not doing anything this weekend, and if you are doing something, maybe you might include taking a trip to a couple of different monuments in the city, or maybe even go to Pasadena and see the Jackie Robinson Memorial by City Hall and read what's written on it and read some of the plaques around it. It's fascinating reading. Find out some interesting stuff about Los Angeles and Pasadena and Jackie Robinson even, and his brother Mac. The other place you might take a walk around, it's fairly close, is the corner of Spring and Cesar Chavez. I don't know how much Jose Weezer has done between a scale of 1 to 10, and 1 being, let's give him a 1. That monument there is worth going to see. It's on the sidewalk, it's all kinds of different stuff, but it gives a great history of stuff that happened in the United States. And you get a better understanding how crazy it is and how the country was formed and is really kind of a racist, bigoted type of country, but people still come for the opportunities. And yet the Congress and everybody has done all kinds of stuff to make it really tough, but people still show up for the opportunities. It's kind of like I keep butting my head against the wall, but something's going to happen sometime. And then at Saturday night maybe rolls around, you might consider renting the movie The China Syndrome. It's an old movie from the mid-'70s, but it's as relevant it was back then, and it starred Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas. And I'm out of time.
2 minutes.
But
Thank
it's
you,
worth
Mr.
seeing.
Sachs.
Trust me
Mr.
on that one.
Al-Najjar, you have a card in, sir? You have a card, Assad Al-Najjar? Yes.
Good morning, President James, Commissioner, colleagues at the Board of Public Works. I come to you today to speak as a resident of City of LA for the past 37 years, the past 17 in Porter Ranch, and I'm the chair of the Safety Committee for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. Early this week, Commissioner Davis asked a very excellent question, and I felt I should come on my day off and answer to it. Unfortunately, he's not here. He asked about the relationship between the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council and CD12. I'll address it from the Safety Committee The safety committee that I chair and co-chaired by Mr. Balin, from the time that Mr. Balin started running against John Lee and Englander historically, and because I'm running now against John Lee for CD12, we have been boycott. Recently, I had a town hall meeting for pressing issues with the city attorney, president, LAPD, law enforcement, but CD12, Councilman Lee and his staff elected to boycott the meeting. And the tendency has been the past 4 years, and it goes as we flow, because we are running for that seat, our neighborhood council is being neglected. Same goes through for Northridge Neighborhood Council. I don't want to speak about them, but because Dr. Lorraine Lindquist is running against Mr. Lee, Councilman Lee, they are getting the same treatment. We respect the council office because we look at it this way. We are elected volunteers. Councilman Lee is an elected official, and we're all part of the city family. So we respect them. However, we are in boycott. And that's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's all for general public comment. So I'll close general public comment. Agenda item number 6 is an authority for expenditure. Office of Contract Compliance Outreach Program, Contract Administration, and the Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $28,720 from miscellaneous vendors on this. We have a representative from number 6.
Mr. President, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. On item number 6, there's been a request to continue the item for 1 week until Friday, January 24th,
Okay.
2020.
That'll control, then we'll, obviously we don't have somebody here for that, so we will continue the item for 1 week to the 24th. On agenda item number 4, contract acceptance, Council District 11, Temescal Canyon Park Stormwater Best Management Practices Phase 2 project, recommending that the board accept the contract. Actually, this is number 3. On number 3, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. Well, to tell you the truth about this one, best management practices. I was at Metro yesterday having my head examined. And if you want best management practices, you can't do better than the Metro Board. There is some of the best management that you have ever seen, ever heard, ever witnessed, ever done. The waste at Hyperion Treatment Plant is less than the best management practices practiced by the Metro Board. I'm being facetious here, just in case you're wondering. Who has best management practices in the city of Los Angeles? That's a real good question right there. Ask that question and you'll find out why there's so many problems in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Ms. Wiles?
Yes, good morning. Sephi Wiles, Bureau of Contract Administration.
This is on number 3.
Yes.
Yes.
Temescal Canyon Park Stormwater Best Management Practices. This is phase 2 of a contract executed by the board May 11th, 2016 in the amount of $2,817,500 even, with all work being completed on August 29, 2018 by Green Building Corporation. This phase 2 project provided for the construction of on-site stormwater treatment system at Temescal Canyon Park, using the treated stormwater for landscape irrigation. This project made use of the phase 2, which built the underground cistern for the project and provided for replacement of the existing irrigation mainline within the project limits. The project contingency was $287,500 even, giving a total authorized budget of $3,105,000. 26 change orders were issued, increasing the contract amount by $190,829.10, bringing the total cost of the project to $3,008,329.10. The project was completed at 6.77% above the awarded amount and 3.11% below its authorized budget. The change orders for this project included several scope changes requested by the Department of Water and Power for electrical work, civil design changes, and removal of sediment from the underground reservoir and other unforeseen conditions. A request to release retention was processed on September 17, 2018, and there were no funds disputed or withheld, therefore no funds due the contractor. The funds were provided in Fund 16T, Department 50, Appropriation Unit Number 50, FD 17. The mandatory subcontractor minimum was 25%, and anticipated goals were achieved by the contractor, as well as the PLA goals were met and exceeded for this project. There are no unresolved property owners' complaints in connection with this project as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3. Any objection? There's a second from Commissioner Caloza. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 3. Any issue sending number 3 forthwith? We will send number 3 forthwith. Give me one moment, please. Actually, I've got meeting minutes from the meeting of Friday, January 10th, 2020. Is there a second to my motion that we approve those meeting minutes? By Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, Commissioner Garcia is helping me through the meeting up here. We'll adopt agenda the meeting minutes. Let's go ahead with agenda item number 7, authority for expenditure for Pacoima Beautiful sanitation in the Office of Accounting and requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure and a service agreement in the amount of $21,192 to expand its urban gardening education program to engage with more city residents, including workshop topics such as, but not limited to, composting, using mulch in urban gardening, educating participants on the added benefits of water conservation. The term dates are July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. That's the current fiscal year. And authorize myself or 2 members of the board to execute the accompanying service agreement. On number 7, Dr. Williams, did you put in a card on number 7? Let me look and see. You did, sir. Go ahead.
Dr. Tom Williams, also with LA 32 Neighborhood Council, the Environmental Green Committee. And we didn't know that this program even existed. I would highly recommend that the program be expanded to 99 neighborhood councils, at least get them informed of the opportunity. We have issues with it. We want more mulch and compost in El Sereno. We took 500 cubic yards of compost and mulch for our El Sereno Recreation Center. We need it. We want it. And this program should be expanded to all neighborhood councils and at least get a web page for it so that we know that it exists and what it's doing. So we're quite concerned about expansion of this program. Rather than just one area, start with 7 or 9 different areas throughout the LA City area and give us more mulch. Oh, by the way, we have space for one more bin and maybe 20 cubic yards at Mission Road. It's going fast, but it's kind of wet today, but over the weekend we're going to be using it. So incorporate the mulch distribution areas, how to mulch, how to compost, and expand it to, there are 99 neighborhood councils throughout the city. So we need it. So expand it. Hey, times, it's only $20,000 times 99. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Flores. I don't have a card from you, Mr. Sachs. What? So, read our rules, sir. You come here a lot. When I run the meeting, I need the speaker cards before I call the item. It affects the order in which I run the meeting. So, if you want to speak on this item, come forward. But that's it. If you're unsure about which items you want to speak on, the safest thing to do is to put in a card on every one of them.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the scolding. I appreciate that.
I'm just trying to help move the
I
meeting for
appreciate that,
everybody
sir.
that's here, sir.
You know what? I certainly appreciate that's great management you have going. And but back to this item. Instead of the neighborhood councils, actually this should go to the district offices, and then the district offices should allocate the funds, because this says term dates are from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And here we are almost at the end of January, and this is coming before the Board of Public Works. So almost 7 months of the 12 months of the contract have already gone by. And again, it's only one, it's a council district 4. I don't know whose council district that is, but evidently they must have raised some kind of squawk, or otherwise they have a lot of mulch from all the bullshit that they pass around. So if you put this in the neighborhood councils, yeah, that's a good idea. But if you put it in the district offices and you say, you know, it's $20,000 for the whole council district, how is that going to work out? There's 200,000 people, over 200,000 people in each council district. It just goes to the wealthy districts. It doesn't go to every neighborhood. And there's a lot of neighborhoods that would probably like to get into doing some neighborhood gardening. So if you put it into the council office, and then each council district files an impact statement. If you file a neighborhood council impact statement with the city clerk or your neighborhood council, then maybe you'll be heard, because that's what it says in your agenda. File an impact statement. And then you get your stuff moved to the council office, and the council office may say, hey, they filed an impact statement. We ought to pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Flores.
Good morning, board members, bureau representatives. So I guess I can respond to those comments at the end of the presentation. So my name's Tanya Flores. I'll be representing Solid Resources Processing and Construction Division in LA San. I'm here to request for authority to expend funds for our urban gardening and water conservation educational program. I did come here last week to request funds for the courses offered at Lopez Canyon and South LA Wetlands. However, today's AFR is for the courses offered at Griffith Park. So as I mentioned last week, Pacoima Beautiful has been really helping us with increasing the public's interest in topics such as container gardens, California native and friendly plants, pollinator gardens, water harvesting and management, and these are only a few topics of the courses that are offered. We have received very positive feedback from the community, from the members that have been able to attend these courses, and for this reason we want to continue the program. The courses offered at Griffith Park are every fourth Saturday of the month, and we currently have approximately 30 attendees every class. This is a new area that we are developing these courses in, and that's why the attendance is relatively low to Lopez Canyon. So for said reasons, we would like to execute this agreement for $21,192, and this is, again, for only the courses offered at Griffith Park. So I do want to respond to the comments said last week and possibly the comments that were just said today. So last week, we had a few comments regarding increasing the budget for our outreach, and we did have around $5,000 in outreach funds, but there was a comment that should be increased because some community members and some council districts are not aware that we're offering these courses. So we are looking into expanding our outreach, making more flyers, reaching out to those community meetings and just doing all kinds of things so the community is aware. These courses are available in our LA San website, and there is already a program in place to do that public outreach. But again, we do want to better it and expand it. There was also another comment on the possibility of expanding these courses to a different location, and we are looking into that, and which would be, it is possible that we are going to expand these courses to a new location called the Harbor Educational Center. This is a new site that LA San is developing, and it's located at the end of the 110 freeway. So again, we're hoping to develop these courses at this new location by the end of the spring, hopefully by the beginning of the summer. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Oh, just to clarify, again, this AE is only for the courses offered at Griffith Park. Last week, I did come for the courses offered at Lopez Canyon and South LA Wetlands, and that AE was for $75,000, approximately $75,000. So it's not just the $21,000 that I'm asking for today. So in total, the program that is being funded is around $90,000 to $100,000 that we're putting into this.
All right, thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay, great, thank you. No questions, I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 7, seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 7. Sir, you seem to be looking for something. So, Dr. Campos, our executive officer, went to get more cards. He's going to put them in the back of the room. Okay, and so you can wait for them back there if you'd like. All right. And then put in whatever cards you want, sir. Same for you, Mr. Herman. Dr. Campos is putting in cards in the back. Dr. Campos?
We are getting some for them.
Okay. So you can wait there and put in cards on any item that hasn't been heard. All right, agenda item. And by the way, because the cards aren't back there, any items that I'm calling up next, you'll be able to speak on. For the record, the items that we have already heard today, so we won't be getting additional cards on those, are agenda item numbers 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. Those were either heard or continued. Agenda item number 2 is a tree removal at 20900 Cessnon Boulevard, recommending that the board find under the California Public Resources Code, Section 21166, and the state's Environmental Quality Act, CEQA Guidelines, Section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record, that since the city's prior certification of the EIR, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to the circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or new information of substantial importance concerning the project, which cause new significant environmental effects, or a substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent EIR, supplemental EIR, or other analysis is required for the project. Secondly, specify that Street Services Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And third, review and approve the request for a fee permit for removal of 25 coast live oak trees. Tree replacements are required. This is the third public hearing on this item. We heard it back in December. Then we had a second public hearing on Monday that went for some time. On Monday, we limited the additional public hearing on this item to the neighborhood council. They participated in the last 2 hearings, to the applicant, and to the council office. General public comment has been taken twice in 2 prior hearings on this agenda item. Mr. Banuelos, you are here, sir. Mr. Jordan.
Yes, good morning, President James.
So, Hector, I know you heard me say on Monday that today's hearing is really just an update on the information from the applicant about their presentation at the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. But I would like for you just to provide a brief, maybe 2-minute summary on what the Bureau seeks before we go into this third hearing.
Yes, good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau representatives. Mr. Jordan and Dr. Campos. Hector Banuelos with the Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. What we have before us is a request to remove 25 protected trees or coast live oak trees for construction of 65 equestrian properties. They're at 20900 Cessna Boulevard as part of vesting tentative tract 50506 M1. The applicant previously applied for a permit to remove 114 trees about a couple of years ago, and the Urban Forest Division informed the applicant that we would request that the developer look into ways of preserving as many trees as possible and reducing the number of tree removals for this project. In consultation with the applicant then turned to his engineers and implemented several grading modifications to minimize the number of trees to be removed, therefore reducing the number of trees from 114 to 25 trees. On the property, there was also one dead oak tree as well. So if approved, the applicant shall plant 100 24-inch box-sized coast live oak trees on a property that's conducive to the survival of the oaks.
All right, so, Mr. Banuelos, and just an update, we had, at the last hearing, an offer, or, well, not an offer, but a request from the council office for additional mitigation measures of 5 to 1 for the number of trees that are going to be replaced, including putting a number of those trees that was discussed in the last hearing in the fire burn areas. That was something that was accepted by the applicant as well. So that's kind of where we are. Let me hear first from the applicant. Mr. Hector started last time with the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. Mr. Sue, you're here today again. Thank you for coming back this morning for the third hearing on this item. Were you able, recognizing that one of the reasons that we've had to have the third hearing was of no one's fault. The Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council was scheduled for a meeting that was still during the LAUSD holiday. They meet in one of the public schools, and the school wasn't available to them to host their meeting, so the meeting was continued to Wednesday night, is what I was informed. Were you able on Wednesday night, 2 nights ago, to visit with the Neighborhood Council to make a presentation?
Yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
we met on Wednesday night.
Could you give us your take on it, recognizing that we're also going to hear from the Neighborhood
Sure,
Council?
no problem. Neighborhood Council meeting I attended. I believe most of the Neighborhood Council was there. There were a couple absent. There was public attendance as well. I had to guess 15 to 20 people of the public were there. We went through, I gave them a presentation. They had questions that they asked, which I answered. They also opened it to public questions, anybody that was there in Neighborhood Council. I would say of the people that spoke, half were in support, half were not. In the end, the Neighborhood Council deliberated, went through the issues. They actually approved the removal with some conditions, which I'm sure Mr. Hector will tell you about. One of the conditions was they wanted to have a site visit themselves to see these actual trees. We had let them know that there is a safety issue, and that's why we were not able to let them on site, because some of these trees are in very steep areas, and there's also cliffs that go off on the side. And these trees have already been inspected by our arborist in the report, as well as urban forestry staff, to confirm what the arborist report has. So that was one condition that they had that we were unable to do. The other condition, and I think Mr. Hector will probably be better at explaining it than I am, but he wanted to add some additional trees, different species of trees, as well as he wanted to put some limits on the number of percentage of native planting that would happen in our tract. Like we said, we've already agreed to a 5 to 1 oak tree mitigation, which my understanding is we remove an oak tree, we mitigate with oak trees. We don't think it's appropriate to add new species of trees to this as well, and as well as now adding conditions that are in
What's
planting.
your replanting tree? I'm sorry, you just told me, but
I'm sorry.
the replacement tree is?
We're replacing the coastal live oak with coastal live oaks.
Got it. So I thought you said, but I missed it. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want a question. What size of trees are you replacing it with?
24-inch box trees.
Perfect,
as
thank you.
required.
Go ahead.
And so I think Mr. Hector asked if we would also add an additional, I believe it's 40 trees, I could be wrong, that were either manzanita or toyon species, as well as he has a percentage amount of planting that he would like to see native. It's our point of view, I don't know if that's really appropriate to now add conditions onto our planting palette for our project. But I also offered to Mr. Hector that we'll work with him. We have a landscape design. We can share it with him. We'll take his input, and I think he'll be surprised to see that we are doing a lot of things he's already asking for.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hector. I'm assuming, sir, that you want Mr. No. So, let's do this. I'll take, Dr. Williams has a card in on number 2. It's a third hearing, but Dr. Williams, if you want to speak on number 2, we'll do that. I'm not done yet, Mr. Herman. And obviously, Mr. Herman has a card in on number 2. So, keeping you to the 2-minute time limit that everybody gets for public comment, I'll reopen the public comment on that so you can be heard. But so, which one do you want to go first? Okay, come on up. Are you here on behalf of the Neighborhood Council, sir?
I am.
Same admonition as before. Yes. Go ahead.
Good morning, Honorary President James and Commissioners. Thank you again for having us here for the third time. I need to step back at our last meeting, and it's unfortunate that Commissioner Davis is not here. Commissioner Davis continued to push my council member, Mr. Hector, that we did not reach out to the developer. I want to make it clear on the record, we work extremely hard for the community, and we did reach out to the developer the day after our first meeting, and we had
Sir, you're rehashing stuff from the prior hearing. What I want to hear is what happened at the Neighborhood Council.
I got that, but I wanted to be clear about something, and he's not here, and we work very hard, and Mr. Vanduelos, he told us that we were not allowed on the site. That's what I need to make clear to you guys, because Mr. Davis was on the impression that we did not reach out, and we were told by your commissioners that we were not allowed on the site, and we adhered to that till we had our next meeting. Good. We did have our meeting, and Mr. Su did come. We had a very good meeting. The board did approve this, but we do have some specifications that, for instance, President Issam Najan, he still would like to see that the board have right to look at the trees. But just so the board understands, we did approve this. Okay, we're good with it, but we still have issues that we'd like to adhere to.
Okay.
Okay?
Just know, sir, we really appreciate your board's work on this, as well as the applicant. And we'll talk about in a moment about them working with you all going forward.
Thank you. And maybe Mr. Davis doesn't realize that the Neighborhood Council is not an HOA. He kept on insinuating that we're an HOA. We're not. We're elected by the city. We're elected by the community to be there. But I'm just making it clear, maybe if you speak to him, he'll know that when we do come here, we're speaking on behalf of the community.
Dr. Davis is aware of the Neighborhood Council, sir.
Oh, he wasn't. He didn't lead it that way.
Well, you can take that up with him.
Thank you.
Mr. Hector, you have some general public comment you want to provide?
Jason Hector, I welcome, thank you, Mr. James, and Commissioners, President James. One of the things that I wanted to express is the importance of the Neighborhood Council position in the community. The Neighborhood Council, and I'm speaking as an individual, but the Neighborhood Council essentially represents the community and is a member of communities, a body of community members. And they are under the official charter of the City of Los Angeles in an official capacity to advise all bodies of the City of Los Angeles. The applicant's refusal for the Neighborhood Council to visit this site is actually obstructing their capacity to do the job of the council, because without a site visit, there's no way that the council can go in and verify what's being said here by the engineering, on the engineering report, whether these trees have been removed or not. That came up at our meeting. Several of the board members at the Neighborhood Council meeting came up, were asking, have the trees been removed? And there's no way that we can go and address our stakeholders and say, yes, no, we went to the site. the neighborhood council went to the site, I should say, and visited the trees. So, and also to verify the type of slopes that they're talking about and the necessity to actually see the site. So there's certain things you can't really undertake without visiting the actual site. So I just wanted to stress that importance and also say that the council office, I believe, was invited to the meeting but failed to show up. And they could have sent a representative, and that didn't take place. So it's a continued pattern, but that's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sachs on number 2.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. And the presentation do raise some interesting questions regarding homeowners associations and neighborhood councils and the overlap between the two. There's a good question, but I find this one really interesting. That's written here: the state's Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines, and the city's prior certification of the environmental impact report, number whatever. But if the city's the city's environmental impact report meet the state's Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and who did the CEQA report? Because it doesn't really say, it just said the city certified an environmental impact report. That's more important. But who does the environmental impact report? The fact that there's only 25 trees going to be eliminated, again, in neighborhood councils can have overlapping homeowners associations, and one homeowner association can have this, and one homeowner association can have that. How is that decided? Guess evidently who shows up for the neighborhood council meetings. And so they have some powers, neighborhood councils have some powers. The fact that the district representative didn't show up is very important, because the district representative is essentially the final arbitrator between the neighborhood councils and the homeowners associations. That's the important part here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Dr. Williams on number 2.
Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community. Yeah, I've worked in Porter Ranch and Alicio Canyon since 2015. Why? Because of the gas issues regarding Southern California Gas Company. I know the Oaks quite well. There are aerial photographs and satellite images of the entire site. I have submitted comments on this particular project. But here the question is mitigation. And remembering that the mitigation is a 1-inch diameter times 4. So that's 100 trees. That sounds like a lot. But when you consider a 10-inch diameter tree being replaced by a 1-inch diameter tree, you got about 30 times difference. So maybe if it was 30 times 100, that might be a better mitigation. By the way, we have an objective this year of 90,000 trees in the city of Los Angeles. That's 7,500 a month. How many have we planted this month? So quite concerned about the mitigation opportunities. A lot more mitigation is required, and if you're going to put them next to sidewalks, please put a root barrier in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Herman on number 2.
So where is the fat slob, Mr. Davis? Why can't the nigger be here to talk about our live oaks? The same oaks that the city has destroyed year after year since I've been here in protest. Like you destroyed those fucking oak trees, Jose Huizar, at Evergreen Park, knowing that you brought a contractor from Arizona to cut the niggers down. And now you come here with this bullshit urban forestry that think they know what coast live oak look like, and now you let this fucking developer shred them down. And yet my Native American culture is cut to death because you white niggers believe it's okay that our air is fresh. But I'm living in the hell that you created in my life. A life when I lived with the Oaks, I breathed with the Oaks, and I brought the attention of those Oaks to that nigger Jose Huizar, who's under an FBI, who built that fucking child care and tore down my tennis courts to cut fucking oak trees that were not on the property. And then you come up with this shit. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you steal our trees that have been here longer than some of you can wipe your ass, young ladies? Pussies. You know what I like about pussies? Is they don't want to fight. See, I don't want to fight. I'm not a fighter. But I sure got a mouth like a nigger. Bark, bark, bark. And where's Davis? He's over there with Mr. Bakewell and his fucking fake news, assholes.
Mr. Greenspan. On number 2.
Thank you. Mike Greenspan, an Orange Bowl champ, Florida Gator, UCLA. I don't. Well, in fact, Live Oak. We got a city in Florida named Live Oak, just north of Gainesville, a little bit north. Now, one of the things one of the people from the neighborhood council mentioned, nobody came out to the site to look at it. And I've been in real estate appraisal, and that's 101, rule 1 of appraisal 101. You always go out to the site to look at the house. And we've got 5 commissioners with the Board of Public Works, and there's no sin in all 5 of the commissioners going out there and seeing the site and looking at the trees in context and the relationship to the street, the sidewalk, and everything else, and perhaps get an idea why the trees are being cut down. And it's real simple. From here, we take the surface streets to Interstate 5, go north, and when you see the 118, you get off it and you go west. And then you come to Balboa Boulevard, and you go north. And Cessna will be very near. You'll be right there in the neighborhood. It isn't wrong for you commissioners to go look at the site before making these decisions instead of making the decisions in the abstract. Now, when you cut down those trees, what are you going to do with the wood? There's probably people that can't afford wood for their fireplace or whatever. And would it be so wrong if some poor people had some wood for heating, for cooking, and things like that? I mean, not everybody's making $100,000 a year sitting in a comfy chair on the Board of Public Works. No, people are struggling in this town. So let's make smart decisions and let's get things done. And let me refer you to a John Denver movie they had years ago. And he had his house in Colorado, and while he was on tour, the wife made a decision to cut down the trees because they were choking the water lines on the property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any interest on the council office? And Eric, let me mention where I am, and then we'll see if you want to add anything to it, of course. I appreciate the continuing action of the applicant and the neighborhood council. The meeting occurred on Wednesday night. From both accounts, it sounds like it was very productive. I appreciate the input of the council office and the help in the additional mitigations. That's something that was accepted by the applicant, I think beneficial for the community. My request would be, and it's not really a request as much as it is an offer from the applicant that I think that the board would accept, and that is the willingness to continue to work with the community and the neighborhood council on their suggestions and recommendations, as well as with street services. But I'm not inclined to put additional conditions on the application at this point, recognizing that we're available, the council office is available, street services is available if something goes askew here from the permit, and we haven't seen anything to indicate that we have an applicant that that is not going to follow the procedures. They have definitely followed the procedures of the city in connection with this long project. Anything, Eric, that you want to add on behalf of the council office, or?
Thank you, Mr. President, board members, good morning. Nothing to add other than we agree. We think the applicant has followed the procedures correctly, and we're glad that they've agreed to go 5 to 1, whatever the ratio in the burned area or in the tract. We can work on that with the developer as well as urban forestry, the experts in the field, to decide where those trees should be planted. We just would ask that whatever trees are planted outside of the tract in the burned area are planted in a manner that are accessible by a watering truck, obviously, because we want to make sure that these trees thrive.
Okay, and that's something that that we will. The applicant. That's something that's okay with the applicant. So we've got their agreement here.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So then that'll be my motion that we adopt the board report as requested, which includes the comments on the additional 5 to 1 mitigation, as Mr. Hector reminds me. So I guess that would be an amended motion. Is there a second on that? Second by Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, that'll be the order. Thank you all for the participation in all of our hearings on this in reaching a good result on agenda item number 2. Agenda item number 1 is Council Districts 8, 14, and 15, Tree Removal Bid Package 47. This is a citywide sidewalk repair program recommending that the board find that the tree removal classifies as operation, repair, maintenance, or minor alteration of existing street, sidewalk, and gutter involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond that previously existing and does not involve the removal of a scenic resource. 2, that the action is exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 1, Category 3, existing facilities, sidewalk repair or maintenance of the City of Los Angeles Environmental Quality Act guidelines from 2002. And 3, that none of the exceptions to the use of a categorical exemption is set forth in Section 15300.2 of the state CEQA guidelines apply. And secondly, review and approve this tree removal permit request for the removal of 8 street trees, which include 1 weeping fig tree, 1 modesto tree, 1 Brazilian pepper tree, 1 Chinese flame tree, 1 bottle tree, 1 Aleppo pine tree, 1 carob tree, and 1 Chinese elm tree for the reconstruction of off-grade sidewalks and curb ramp installation. Tree replacements are required. On number 1, Mr. Greenspan.
Thank you. Mike Greenspan, Orange Bowl champ, Florida Gator. UCLA? I don't. Anyway, now it's time to talk about removing trees. Now, I'm not going to be like this. This friend of mine told me years ago he had this thing called Army Corps of Engineers magazine. And it showed a bunch of Army Corps of Engineers people with chainsaws in their hands. And it said, "Look, Sarge, behind that Indian, a tree." And they were ready to cut down the trees. I'm not that way. So I want to have that on the record. However, sometimes you got to remove the trees. Why? Well, it can, as I mentioned before, from the John Denver movie, they had scenic trees on the Colorado property, and it choked all the water pipes, so they couldn't get water in their place. The root will take off in its own direction, find whatever water pipe there is, wrap itself around the water pipe, and now you don't get any water in your place. So the trees, although scenic, do have a certain, I guess kind of an appraisal term, an economic life to them. Because once the roots get to it, you got to get in there and you dig under it and everything else. Well, guess what else gets destroyed? The sidewalks. Yeah, the sidewalks. I'll give you a good example of one because it's right here in the area. If anybody doesn't mind walking a mile down to Union Station, through the Union Station, and out the other end onto Ramirez Street over to Denny's restaurant, on the right-hand side as we're looking south, there's a big tree over there on Ramirez Street. I mean, a tree. And what's even bigger are the roots. The roots have busted up the sidewalk. It is a good poster child photo op of a busted sidewalk due to the trees. And all these trees happen after a certain period of time. So perhaps we should be looking at it as the economic life of a tree, the way you would look at the economic life of a house or economic life of business property or whatever else. As trees get planted, we have to remove them, sorry to say, because we want to be able to walk on the sidewalks, and people in wheelchairs cannot get around those bumpy sidewalks. It just makes it worse, inaccessible, and everything else to the people who can least handle it. And once you do chop down the trees, please save the wood and bring it to somebody who could use it. They can't afford to buy wood for their fireplace. It would be helpful to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hector on number 1. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, President James, Commissioners. Just wanted to speak about this package. I see these packages come through Public Works, but you know, the CD12 is not on here, and it's a common problem in Porter Ranch, where I live, that we're not getting our share of services from these kind of packages that are put together. We have a lot of problems, like I was mentioning before, with sidewalks, uplifted sidewalks, very large trees. So one of the things that I'd like to suggest, because I see when they do new sidewalk repairs, they're just putting in, they're expanding the tree wells, which is great, to like 8x4, but why not run the green space further? I know it's more weed abatement, but that allows these large trees' roots to continue and grow out. And if you go to other cities and look how they do things, Beverly Hills, Burbank, you see that they have green kind of patches next to the sidewalks to allow the roots to expand. So one of the things Streets LA is doing is they were supposed to be having a community oversight committee, which we were trying to get on that committee to help advise and work with the community on solutions. But I think we have to do better with the way that we do things, and we can look to other cities. But I really go back to stressing the importance of getting our fair share of these replacement sidewalk repair programs in our area. And so I hope there's a way, or I ask if there is a way, that if we're not getting help with the council office, is there a way that the community can work with Public Works to get more services in our community? And we invite Commissioner, I believe Ms. Garcia is our representative for the Board of Public Works in Porter Ranch. I believe
it would be me.
Oh, you would be. Okay, so you came out. Thank you so much. And actually, we did talk about sidewalk repair issues. So I think if we can find a way to work
2 minutes.
and get more done.
Thank you, Mr. Hector. One of the things I've mentioned is that sidewalk repair, you can have a seat, sir. Okay. It's that sidewalk repair requests can be made into Streets LA or through our sidewalk repair program. I think it's sidewalks.lacity.org. One of the things that I do remind communities, there is an order in which we are mandated to repair sidewalks based on a settlement of the federal lawsuit, the Willits case, that does set priorities for the city that we are required to follow. And so that can affect the order in which we are able to repair some sidewalks. On number 1, Mr. Sachs. But by the way, I would encourage any community, whether it's CD12 or others, if you have sidewalks that we need to see, submit them, because they get into the review pool and we fix them. Go ahead, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. So, according to what this says on the agenda, community impact statements might be considered, filed with the city clerk, which relate to the agenda items listed. But if you want to put your item on the agenda, you could file a community impact statement. And these, it seems to me, to be ADA compliant areas on all the sidewalks. So the idea here is to go through your neighborhood with your neighborhood councils and look at the corners and find out which neighborhoods have ADA compliant sidewalks and which neighborhoods, I mean, like curb to gutter, that's ADA compliant. The fact that they could have a a route that's piled up 45 feet, that doesn't matter. We got to have the curbs to gutter part ADA compliant first. That's where the ruling was established. That's what the court case was about, curb to gutter, so that wheelchair users and motorized people in the motorized carts can get from the gutter, from the street onto the sidewalk without going over the curb. That's what this is about. So you go to your corners and you look and you say, well, they can't get up the curb there, they can't get up the curb there, and you just mark them down. And then you can make a community impact statement, and you can pass that community impact statement on to your council representative, and you just follow the chain up. The other part of this is the City of Los Angeles Environmental Quality Act, and on the previous item, it was the California Public Resources Code that you followed. So you have two different codes here that you're following. One is for the state for building, because that was a building that was going to be put up in that area, and one for sidewalks. So when it's a building, they do the state, and when they do the sidewalks, they do the city. But they could be different environmental quality acts.
Thank you,
Check it
Mr.
out.
Sachs. Mr. Herman on agenda item number 1.
Bunch of chicken shit bullshit. You know better. How many times have I put on record Willits versus Los Angeles and $30 million of unspent city money is being circulated to fund your stealing? Criminals. You're nothing more but criminals. Just like Ash Dawson and Live Oak Joe Busquiano and shithead Elmer or Elm Jose Huizar. And the recommendation of the board, as I put it frankly, is suck Eric Garcetti's big white caucus. Because this caucus asshole has made promises from the time when he was an elected councilman with that jackass wetback. You know what I'm talking about, the wetback from my hood. That mayor, the first Mexican back as a mayor. And what had he done? Nothing. What have you done? Nothing. And what's going to happen? Nothing. The same chicken shit attitude you all have towards the disabled. Discriminatory. Deprive the right to repair, replace, fix sidewalk, curbs, and streets. But no, you're stealing. FBI, are you looking into the audit of the stealing? Where is Willits versus Los Angeles, federal government? We need Donald Trump. I demand Donald Trump to push another button and kill those fucking terrorists who are destroying our community and destroying the city of Los Angeles.
Mr. Benuelos on number 1.
Yeah, good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, City Attorney Dr. Campos, Secretary Benuelos with the Streets of LA Urban Forestry Division. We have before us is a request for the Bureau of Engineering Sidewalk Repair Program to remove 8 trees for sidewalk repair in Council Districts 8, 14, and 15. The Streets LA reviewed the locations. There's 82 trees within the project limits of the 14 locations that are identified for this package here, the sidewalk repair program. The 6 of the 8 trees are in really poor condition. They should probably be removed just based on their condition alone. And with the sidewalk repair, they're really going to exacerbate the conditions of the trees and probably cause them to go into further decline and require their removal. 2 of the trees appear to be healthy, mature trees. We reached out to Bureau of Engineering and asked that the alternatives be explored to see if the trees can be retained in place. However, the Bureau of Engineering responded back and indicated that there's no feasible methods to retain the trees, and therefore the trees have to be removed. And so there are 8 trees to be removed in this package here. They have approved the trees removed will be replaced with 16 street trees planted in various locations within their respective council districts. the Community Advisory Committee, Community Forestry Advisory Committee, and the Council District offices were informed of the tree removal permit request. Any questions?
I don't have any questions on this sidewalk repair request. So I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1. Thank you, Hector. Seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending number 1 forthwith? We'll send number 1 forthwith. A couple of housekeeping items. Dr. Campos, there's a request to continue agenda item number 4. What date?
Yes, that is correct. We are requesting to continue the item to Wednesday, January 29, 2020.
Okay, so without objection, we'll continue agenda item number 4 to Wednesday, January 29, 2020. Agenda item number 10 has been withdrawn, so we'll withdraw agenda item number 10. Agenda item number 5, Glendale, Council Districts 4 and 13, Glendale Hyperion Bridge, Los Angeles River Project, recommending that the board approve the revised status of funding and the debt impact statement for the acquisition of the property identified as assessor parcel number 54350390006. Mr. Herman, you have one moment. We have a couple of speaker cards. Mr. Herman on number 5.
So we got CD 13, the faggot. For God hates homosexuality. God hates bridges just as much as I hate homosexuality. For God hates homosexuality. And the Bible says, thou shalt kill if you destroy my bridge in the Los Angeles River. You continue to destroy our community with your deceit by depriving us the right to see a river without concrete, without homelessness. But yet you deprive us because you continue to believe that the Glendale Hyperion Bridge looks like a big white dick sticking out of that river so that everyone in the community can notice as you drive by that the city of Los Angeles is enticing us with a big white dick that protrudes out of the LA River so you can recognize a monument in the name of Kevin James and all those fucking homosexuals that God hates. So why do I say this? Because the Bible says God hates homosexuals. And in turn, in the book of James, which relates to the bestiality of faggots and bitches who enjoy cunt and dick, send the dick a message. Eric Garcetti, get the fuck out of our community. You fucked it up with the HHH. You fucked it up with the Holocaust crisis on homelessness. You are a fucked up mayor.
Mr. Sachs on number 5.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. And I thought I saw this one item with the Glendale Bridge. And I found it December 18th. You had the purchase of the property, an item on your agenda for $28,250 payable to Commonwealth land title. And I remember that Commonwealth land title was for some property owned by Metro in Glendora and was overseen by Habib Alian, which was another story, but it's all connected together with Metro and some other bullshit. But it's also codified. You know, you see this, if you read this agenda from December 18th, you see the rules are codified, which doesn't always happen in the city and the county. Some rules are codified and some rules are not. And it's the intent of the law versus the letter of the law. And there's a big difference between the two. It's probably as wide a gap as the gap between the east coast of United States and Europe, mainland Europe. So you need to understand what that exactly means when you're looking at some of these things. Big problem here. Is there any rail involved with this? Is the railroad involved in any of this work? Union Pacific or Southern Santa Fe Railroads, and consider Santa Fe Railroads is named after the city of Santa Fe in New Mexico, yet it's one of the largest railroads on the West Coast, or the largest rail companies on the West Coast. And the other company was owned by, what's his name? Who's the guy from Nebraska? Can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but that's the guy. He owns, he's got some money involved in the railroad. Because railroads were forever. It's fascinating. If you go to Philippe's, they have a exhibit back there. Alco made engines. Then they went to Alcoa.
2 minutes.
Mr. Greenspan on number 5.
Mike Greenspan, and out here again. After all, when we put these agenda items on, and there's money involved, I'm thankful that Mr. Sachs told us it was about $28,000. If it was an item from a previous meeting or whatever, bring us up to speed in case we weren't there about this parcel on the item and about acquisition of property. After all, parcel number 5435-039-006, what's it being used for currently, and what's going to be the use for it afterward? I think that those are important questions. How much is it of our taxpayer money being used for it? And just things like that, just some basics. Are we going into debt over $28,000? I sure hope not. I really hope we're better financed than that. But I do realize that years ago, Mayor Reardon talked about us being on the brink of bankruptcy, so anything is possible. Even when Gray Davis was controller, someone had a $3 check that got bounced from the state of California. Kind of embarrassing, but I just hope we don't sink to that low level. And as I say, we're talking about obtaining property. Hopefully it's being used for something good and productive. We could always eminent domain it if it were a private entity, but it looks like we're just transferring stuff from one government agency to another government agency, and hopefully for an appraisal term, a higher and better use of the property, because that is always the metric in appraisal of the highest and best use of the property. And so I just want these things considered as, and also the parcel. That's kind of like one of those parcel tax proposals that the school board had. One was in 2010, one was in 2019. Yeah, a very regressive tax. Another parcel of
Thank you, sir. Ms. Para.
Good morning, President James, Board of Commissioners, Mr. Ted Jordan, Dr. Campos, and guests. On December 18, 2019, the board authorized our city engineer to negotiate for and acquire in fee a privately owned parcel for the widening of the Glendale Boulevard Bridge over Los Angeles River. The purchase price, as well as the related closing costs, shall not exceed $28,250. The federal grant from the Highway Bridge Program will reimburse 88.53% of the total cost. The remaining 11.47%, or $3,240, will be matched by the city's Municipal Improvement Corporation of Los Angeles, or MICLA. Our report on December 18 incorrectly stated that the acquisition has no fiscal impact on the general fund. The $3,240 match, which comes from MICLA, will impact the general fund, and this motion basically is to correct that fiscal impact statement. The issuance of the MICLA debt for this acquisition would cost the city to borrow $3,240, and the estimated interest, as well as that capital, that $3,240 at 5.5%, would have a debt service of approximately $5,240. We would appreciate the approval of the motion so that we can proceed with acquiring this property that is very much needed for the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Parr. Any questions at all? We're just getting our funding process and identity of accounts squared away, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then no questions. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 5, seconded by Commissioner Caloza. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any issue sending number 5 forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. Dr. Campbell, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.